Hello everybody! I hope you guys are staying warm and dry today because it is just gross. After this live feed, I am definitely going to be snuggling up with the terriers before I have to head out again for an appointment. So welcome to my kitchen. I thought it would be fun to be on location to talk about something that lots of people call us about, which is counter surfing. Before I begin, let me introduce myself. I'm Paula Nowak. I'm the owner of Canine Country Academy, and from here until the end of the year, Monday through Friday, we're going to be talking about things that get dogs into trouble during the winter or this season if you celebrate holidays. So today we're going to talk about counter surfing, and that's something that I actually have to think about, or table surfing, even though I have small dogs. Curly, who's 12 and 20 pounds, he can get stuff off of this counter. Yeah, so one thing I would say before I even get into like tips after your dog has figured out how to do that is never, ever, ever, ever let them get anything off a table or a countertop. Now that doesn't mean you have to be harsh or mean about it. It just means that you need to be proactive, be preventative. So if your countertops look like this, you probably wouldn't have to worry very often. Now, I'll be honest, behind the camera is where I put some things so that it would be blank. When you are trying to prevent counter surfing, whether your dog has already learned to do it or you want them never to learn it, you want to make sure they never have access to things or never have that temptation, especially if you have dogs who are taller who can easily get onto a counter or a table. I even had to move my hot tea from the counter as well as from the table out in the living room because Curly loves tea and coffee. So I have to make sure it's not available to him to sneak and get a drink. Plus, I don't want to share. If I wanted to share, I'd give him some, right? So number one, just don't let your dog do it. So your tip is keep clean countertops. Now, I've been to many people's homes, and I know that's not the reality for most people. But if you're trying to prevent it, you really need to do that so that way your dog does not get that positive reinforcement for themselves. Now, if you couldn't keep them completely clean, then you need to keep the dog out of that environment when you're not there to watch them. Because what I don't want you to do is the dog gets up here and then you say off or no or leave it and then they get off. They get off and it becomes this pattern of behavior of, oh, put your feet up on the counter, up on the table. The human says something, then you get off, then maybe get reinforced for that, okay? So keep countertops clean. Number two is to reinforce what you want. So right now, Norby has joined us. You can't see him because he's on the floor. You want to come up, bud? He's just hanging out. He's hoping maybe there's something happening here in the kitchen. And maybe there will be. Maybe I'll get some snacks out here in a second to show you guys. But Norby's good. He doesn't get on the counters. But because I learned from Curly not to let a dog get reinforced, what I would do is if I wanted to work with Norby so that he wasn't begging here at the table or the counter, is I'd reinforce him for not maybe being in my space. So let me set him down. Good boy. I would maybe have some treats up here. Maybe I'm cutting something up. Maybe it is for training. And what I would do is I'd reinforce the dog for being on the ground, for not ever jumping up. I don't mind if they're in the kitchen with me. Sometimes I think that's easier. If you guys agree, when you drop something and they can have it, it's a lot easier than having to bend down and pick it up, right? If you agree, give this a thumbs up. But I would teach the dog that getting up here doesn't get you anything. Being 4 on the floor gets you everything, right? So reinforce what you want, whether you want them right under your feet, or if I wanted, I could put a rug a little bit further away and I could reinforce the dog for going and being on the rug. And in another live feed that I'll do next week, we'll actually do that. I'll actually show you exactly what to do to teach your dog to go to place or spot while you are letting someone in the house or while you're preparing a meal so they know what to do. I call it a magic carpet that you can reinforce, hey, I need you to be on this rug. If I'm preparing something, I don't want you here. Or maybe I want my dog outside the kitchen, I want them on the carpeted area in the dining room or living room, etc., whatever your setup is. and then I would take the food and reinforce there, right? So number 2 is reward what you want. And then my final tip for today, to keep this nice and short so we can all get back to our blankies, is to really think about, how can I manage my environment even more if I don't have the time or the energy right now this season to train something, right? I would prefer you train as much as possible so you can teach the dog exactly what to do, because they don't know. They just want whatever goodies you have because it smells really good in the kitchen. But think about, okay, what is your kitchen setup? I have 2 doors, so I can put gates, and I do frequently put baby gates if I just want them out of my hair. Do you have doors? Could you put maybe a playpen around? Could you tether the dog to a big piece of furniture? Could you give them something else to do? Maybe you give them a frozen Kong. Maybe you put them in their kennel. It's not a bad idea to just manage 100%, get them completely out of the environment so you don't even have to stress about it. You can just cook, prepare your meal, serve guests. When I have guests over for a meal, we tend to kind of congregate on the kitchen area anyways with the island. And so I tend to manage my dogs by either crating them or gating them in another room until things kind of settle down. And then I'll bring 1 or 2 dogs in for them to hang out with the, crowd at that moment if it's appropriate. So tip number 1, well, keep your countertops clean. Number 2 is make sure you reward what you want. Teach the dog what you want. 4 on the floor is what gets you paid. Be careful though that you're not teaching your dog to put their paws up. You say something like off or leave it, and then they go on the floor. And then number 3 is just manage the whole thing. Just manage them, gate them out. That's fine too. There's so many things you can do to teach the dog not to counter serve. But management is really helpful because it's just easier. It's not going to teach necessarily what you want, but in the short term, it's going to make you successful. So if you have a counter surfer, please post in the comments down below some of the things maybe they've gotten and what tips from this live feed you're going to take and apply ASAP, so that way you don't have counter surfing for at least the next few weeks. All right, guys, if you have any questions, post them in the comments down below. I would love to hear if you suffer from living with a counter surfer as I do. It's not always easy, and he still gets reinforced. Sometimes he had coffee a couple days ago because I forgot, right? And once they learn, especially when they learn things on their own, it is really hard to get them to not do that anymore because they taught themselves, right? So I hope you guys are having a great day. Happy Friday, we made it. I will be checking back in with you on Monday at 4 o'clock Eastern Time. Make sure to share this with anyone that also might suffer from a counter surfer. And we'll have more topics to talk about what troubles are coming up this season and how we can fend them off. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.